John, a man who, like many, underestimated the quiet girl in college only to be captivated by the woman she became. Their life together was a portrait of a perfect marriage. A single night proved that trust can be an illusion. My story begins in college, where I first met Emily. I never saw her as someone I'd have a long-term relationship with. She was quiet, almost invisible, and seemed to fade into the background. She was the kind of person most people overlooked. My initial intentions were shallow, but something unexpected happened. Emily began to change. She joined a gym, started dressing differently, and transformed from a timid wallflower into a confident, striking woman. She turned heads everywhere she went. My friends would joke that I'd locked her down early, when she was still harmless, and I was proud, as if her transformation was my own accomplishment. But she wasn't just stunning. She was kind and deeply passionate. I quickly realized I had no desire to look elsewhere. She was everything I wanted. After graduation, I proposed, and we soon welcomed our daughter Sarah into the world. Married life felt effortless. We trusted each other completely, and I never doubted her loyalty. Emily dedicated herself to our family, spending her days with Sarah and filling our home with warmth and laughter. When our daughter was at daycare, she poured herself into managing the household. While many of our friends' marriages faltered, ours remained solid. We simply loved and respected each other. Eventually, we bought a house, and to help with the mortgage, Emily found a job at a company with an almost entirely female staff. She often came home exhausted, complaining about the office drama. I encouraged her to take breaks, sometimes even sending her and Sarah on trips. Over time, she seemed happier and more at peace. Her office began holding parties, and one December, she told me about a New Year's event. I didn't think twice about it. She deserved to enjoy herself. That evening, she wore a daring black dress I'd picked out for her. She looked incredible, her beauty only having grown over the years. Since she worked with women, I wasn't concerned. I kissed her goodbye, telling her to have fun but to be home by 10 p.m. At exactly 10 p.m., Emily called to say she was having a great time. I was happy for her, but my unease grew as 11 p.m. came and went with no sign of her. Emily had never done anything like this. I called her phone repeatedly, but there was no answer. My worry quickly turned to frustration. Finally, around 2 a.m., her phone lit up. She was slurring her words, scolding me for calling so much. In the background, I heard men's voices. My stomach dropped. I demanded she come home immediately, but she just laughed. A careless giggle that sent a wave of rage through me. I was forced to hang up and wait. At 5 a.m., she called again, saying she was getting a cab. Half an hour later, I saw her step out of an expensive car, definitely not a cab. She stumbled up the steps, her hair a tangled mess, her stockings torn, and her makeup smeared. She looked ruined. In my shock and anger, I shoved her back slightly, and that's when I saw it, a hickey, bright and bold, on her neck. I demanded answers, but all she could slur was, "I was just having fun." Sarah had woken up, frightened by the noise. I didn't want her near her mother. Emily didn't even notice her. She simply stumbled toward the bathroom, locked herself inside, and passed out. She stayed asleep the entire next day while I sat alone, reeling, desperate for guidance. I called my mother, my go-to for advice. She had always loved Emily and called her the perfect wife. But after hearing what happened, even she was stunned. Her advice was simple and firm: divorce her immediately. That same afternoon, I went to the courthouse and filed the paperwork. When I returned home, Emily had finally woken up. She looked desperate and ashamed. I asked her one simple question: "Did you cheat?" She nodded, then dropped to her knees, begging for forgiveness. But it didn't matter. In that moment, I no longer saw her as my wife. She was just a stranger. She knew how I felt about cheating, and she crossed that line anyway. The biggest shock came later, when our daughter, just 10 years old, told me she wanted to live with me after the divorce. She had seen enough. Soon after, I packed up and moved to another city with Sarah. We settled into a new home, and she adapted quickly. From what little I've heard, Emily is still drifting from man to man, chasing her next adventure like nothing ever happened. That was the path she chose. As for me, I've moved on, focused on raising my daughter and building a new life.